It's all Shane Bruce, Resto My Daisy, and today we've got a straight repair. A customer subscriber of ours from the YouTube channel here has sent in a Daisy 1938B. Let's get a traditional shot of the roll stamp. According to the serial number, this is an early post 78, 79 Daisy, probably built about 1981. And it has, of course, the plastic trigger and the abutment assembly change that occurred in those year groups. This example has a really nice looking set of U.S. made wood stocks. This is back from 81, so they were still making them in the States then. The varnish coat is nice. It's got some wear on the butt, but a nice honest look. It's not too bad for poplar, and you'll notice the foreend looks equally good. This gun also came equipped with the Daisy cast aluminum lever. The new Chinesium lever is a bit heavier than this, but this is the Daisy with the D without the line, with the bullseye in the letter D, which I think is kind of cool. Now this is a plastic trigger gun, and this is the iteration of the plastic trigger from 1981. You'll notice that there's no anti-bear trap mechanism involved. And also, if you've got an older plastic trigger Daisy, there's a couple things you probably want to look at if you take it out of the gun. You want to look for stress cracks in this area here, and then on this side here. If you don't see any obvious cracks or chips, and probably the mechanism's pretty good. We'll take a trip to the back of the trigger now. Like the current model trigger, it has two springs, a large spring here and an interior spring. But these springs are a lot less stiff than the current Daisy plastic trigger assemblies. They are not as heavy to use. The gun below me right now, the one I'm going to take some parts out of to put in this gun, has got a significantly heavier trigger than this gun's got. Now, here's the problem this gun has. This is the integrated abutment shot tube, and when we say integrated, we mean that it is a abutment that holds the barrel, the shot tube, and merely a press fit in place. As you can see, it's partially aluminum, partially plastic, and it has a pretty jazzy abutment seal. This is a neoprene-ish kind of material. This is a magnetic equipped shot tube assembly. There's magnets here at the base that pull the BB into the chamber and hold it in place, so you don't have the spring affair that the bottle cap tubes use. Now here's the drawback on the early guns. This is an 81, so if you'll look where my thumb's at, you'll see that there's a slight right here where my thumb's at, a slight seam. It's visible, there we are. And that seam runs all the way down this barrel because this barrel is fabricated from a single piece of steel and it's rolled on a mandrel, and that's how the barrel's made. Now, here's another important aspect to look at, the muzzle. You'll note that the muzzle of the shot tube itself does not appear to have any sort of chamfer in it. There's no machining going on to soften the departure. So, and you can also see the little tab right there where the seam tube is met. So, you know, it's got some irregularities. Now, what that means is, on these guns, the shot tubes are a little sloppy. They're not as tight a diameter as the current production gun. So when this gun came in, it was described as suffering from a loss of velocity and being wildly erratic in terms of hitting things that you were aiming at. We ran the chrono on it when we got it in, as received, before we took it apart. And you see the gun's running around 200 feet a second, 202, 203, probably averaged over 10 shots. That's about 50 foot a second slower than the current Red Riders new in the box will run, and about 150 feet a second slower than what the gun's advertised to do, which is kind of a mythical number. So the process we're going to use today is the customer wants a fiber optic front sight installed. He wants an upgrade to his mainspring, an upgrade to the shot tube. This is an earlier bent metal shot tube. We'll kick that in. We'll put a 764 air tube in it. We'll put a Cobalt 327 super spring in it. Now here's something that the older guns have that I think is superior to what the new guns have. This is the felt wiper. And this is a dense felt wiper, not a foam wiper. So they're pretty indestructible. They last a long, long time, carry a lot of oil, and do exactly what they're supposed to do, which keep the compression chamber lubricated. Whenever possible, if these are, when I take one of these off an older gun, I will reuse it on a rebuild because it is a better foam than what you currently get from Daisy. All right, so that's the program we're going to look at, and let's back out and look at the second gun, because this is a brand new gun we just picked up from the local big box. And the reason we picked it up from the local big box is I'm going to convert this to use a bottle cap. Old George, who posts erratically over at Daisy Talk, has finally gotten around to figuring out what he needed to do to remove the abutment assembly, voila, from the current production red rider, and then install a 499 abutment that has a threaded has the ability to accept a bottle cap. It's still kind of like up in the air. Is it working? Is it not working? We know, we don't know. We'll find out. But because I think it's going to work, I wanted to pick up a new candidate in a modern production gun to do that adjustment once all the bugs get worked out. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take this red rider apart, and we're going to remove the shot tube and abutment assembly from it. In order to do that, you got to take it apart. Now, I've covered this a number of times on a number of daisies, and the process is pretty much always the same. You pull your nuts off. Try to keep them all gathered together in a generally confused area. Pull the nuts off the back of the 3 bolts. Then we're going to pull the 3 bolts and jerk this thing apart. So the stock bolt is first. Bam, over it goes into the pile of new daisy parts. And then we take off the lever bolt, which is a short bolt. Which if you've done this ever, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, this is how it happens. This is the new daisy lever. You notice there are some physical differences between the two. This one is much heavier. The Chinesium compositions, I don't know exactly what it's made of, but it's a little heavier than the old aluminum lever. Still basic, same logo, which is nice. All right, now we take the top stock screw out. And this is a change. In the older guns, the 81 model, I'll show it to you in just a second, they used a wood screw just like the current model does, but it's not nearly as long as the current production screw. I find these a bit cumbersome and typically do not reuse them. So that screw that just came out of the brand new gun, that's the screw that was in the original gun. And if we take a look at the stock profile, we'll see that the stocks are roughly equivalent, that not much has gone on in design, change, or operation. But you can see the difference in look. This is a varnish finish. This has got a heavy orange, not so shiny finish. They both have the red rider input, but if you'll notice, on the older guns, the detail level is a little better. See how fat that red rider lariat loop is? And on the older guns, it's got a much firmer emboss. So generally, I tend to like the older looking stuff better than the new gun in terms of wood. All right, next phase. We're going to take the trigger out. And once we get that rascal out of the way, we're going to pull the plunger assembly and the air tube out. So when you get to this part, just kind of slide her out, and you'll see some differences here that... There we go now. There's some differences there. That's the new trigger with the bear trap. This is the old trigger without the bear trap. And as you can see, it's essentially the same mechanism with one piece added on. But this spring is a bit heavier than this spring. And that accounts for the increased trigger pull on the gun. All right, so now we're going to run over the vise real quick. Okay, we're back at the bench. This is the new plunger assembly out of the new gun. And I just wanted to show that to you just so that folks can see there are differences. The old 1981 plunger has a non-painted surface. The new one is painted. It's a blue steel. Uses the same basic spring, but when we get down here to the plunger end, you'll see the difference in the foam wiper versus the felt wiper. Foam wiper, felt wiper. Everything else is the same. The air tube on the new one looks different than the air tube on the old one because it is a seamless tube now. It isn't seamed like the old tube was. So it actually holds more air, better air. And more air, better air means more BB, faster BB. All right, now we're going to move back over to the bench. I'm going to show you a couple things about how to remove your abutment in the new model gun. First thing you're going to have to do is remove the front sight. Now, there's a screw here. It looks like a screw, but it's not a screw. That is just a piece of plastic don't get fooled. You can stick a screwdriver on that and turn it all day long and nothing will happen other than rotting out the plastic. All right, so to get these out of here, it's a pretty simple process. Just take a wooden block and give her a couple little love taps. And she'll slide on out of her detent nice and pretty without hurting the gun, without hurting the sight. This is going away because the customer wants fiber. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a driving tube, piece of brass pipe about yay big. It's big enough to sleeve the barrel assembly, but small enough to fit past the loading level, the loading gate, which is a big plastic assembly in the middle of the gun. So we just kind of slip it over that. We slide it down till we make contact. Now when we've made contact, we've actually made contact with the front of the abutment. So now if you back out a little bit, we're just going to give it a couple of little light taps. It doesn't take a whole lot to get this thing out. And once it starts running, we push it down until it binds up on the cross pole. Then we'll flip the gun over. And we'll use a screwdriver or a similar device to push down on that.